managed his meetings and his arrivals and departures to and from every event on his schedule. Brian Mosteller, the director of Oval Office operations, was a man equally as fastidious as his boss in his professional appearance, and even more so in his professional demeanor. If he was at his station, he was a touch taciturn, even if he liked you. His passion was the work behind the work, how an event was staged, how a president knew where to go and when, how a speech got from words on a screen to printed pages on a lectern. From his desk, he could see the president at his. Brian was the only person who could boast that, even though he never would. Fariel Govashiri, born in Tehran, raised in Orange County, California, and barely past 30 years old, acted as the president's private switchboard and managed the intersection of his personal and professional lives. She sat closer to the door of the Oval Office and balanced out Brian's reticence with her perpetual cheer and perfectly timed eye rolls. Obama handed some files to Brian and strode past me. "Come on, Cody." I stood up and frowned at my own shoes, the same dull, scarred, brown leather monk straps I wore every day, making a mental note to buy a replacement pair now that a squishy sock betrayed a brand new hole in the right sole. Sneaking a glance in the gold-framed mirror hung over a console topped with fresh flowers and the morning's arrangement of newspapers, I scanned my shapeless navy suit, rumpled blue shirt, and fraying black tie. It was my favorite outfit. I smiled at Fariel, who gave me a wink as I trailed the President of the United States into the Oval Office. The first time you walk into the Oval, your mouth goes dry. It happens to everybody. You think you'll be ready for it. After all, it's the one room in the West Wing that movies and television dramas take pains to get right. But you're not ready for it. The gravitas of it squeezes the air from your lungs like pressure at the seafloor. The quality of the light is different, sharper somehow, like you just walked onto live television. Everyone's watching you, and everything that's about to happen carries more weight than it would anywhere else. If your self-importance swells while ascending the White House driveway for a meeting with the president, the Oval Office punctures it right away. It's the best home court advantage in the world, and Obama pressed that advantage. He kept the temperature a little too warm, pleasant for someone who had spent his first 18 years between the 22nd parallels maybe, but enough to make everyone else fidget. He chose furniture that forced guests to sit awkwardly. If he beckoned you to the antique chair by the Resolute desk, you'd sit 2 inches too low and at an angle that made you crane your neck to face him, like a dancer frozen mid-leap. If he motioned you to the caramel couches, plush and deep and maligned by critics as reminiscent of basement hand-me-downs, you could either perch on the edge, back straight, like the class goody two-shoes, or slouch like a child who didn't want to be called on. By my 7th year in the Obama White House, though, and my 3rd year as his chief speechwriter, the Oval Office and I had an understanding. I'd set my laptop on the infinity-edged mica coffee table, called up by the New York Times as extremely contemporary, and grab a Honeycrisp apple from the one-of-a-kind hand-turned wooden bowl, then wait to see where he wanted to sit. If he stayed behind his desk, I'd walk over and remain standing in front of him, ignoring the short, rigid chair. If he walked toward his high-backed chair by the fireplace, I'd fluff 2 of the couch's overstuffed throw pillows and stack them behind me so that I could sit comfortably, like a normal human. Being in the room didn't intimidate me anymore. I couldn't, however, say the same about my job. To be a speechwriter for Barack Obama is fucking terrifying. "Okay, show me what you've got," the president said as he settled behind the 1,300-pound oak-timbered Resolute desk. He took a sip of his Lipton with honey and lemon and let out an exaggerated ah. He raised his eyebrows and offered an ironic smile. "Apparently, I've got a lot of time today." I smiled back, not at him, but to myself. His cleared schedule was why I had come to work rather than climb back into bed. The snow day was my scheme to heist as much of his time on the front end of a big speech as I could, and maybe even coax a little more collaboration from him than usual. I'd take all the help I could get to avoid face-planting on a big speech, especially one that would tread the thorny subject of race in America. On March 7th, 1965, a group of protesters, mostly young, mostly black, set out to march from Selma, Alabama to the state capital of Montgomery with a simple demand: the right to vote. They were led by Hosea Williams, a close advisor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and John Lewis, just 25 years old, but by that point an old hand in the civil rights movement. Just 2 years earlier, Lewis had been the youngest, most incendiary